All right, welcome to Chapter 17. This is Chapter 17, which is going to describe the characteristics of Ming society. We're going to start kind of by taking a look at Ming China, and from there, the chapter moves you on to Korea, to Vietnam, comes back to China to talk about China under the Qing, which used to be called the Manchu Dynasty, and then finally take a look at Tokugawa Japan. This chapter is probably the one that most students are maybe the most unfamiliar with. So it's important to read this chapter pretty carefully, and especially as you go through this PowerPoint, you might want to kind of jot down notes as you're doing your reading. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because the Ming, the Qing, Ming China, Qing China, Korea, Vietnam, Tokugawa Japan, they're parts of the module that you're doing a discussion board about Tokugawa Japan. But I do want you to kind of be familiar with some of the things that are going on in this chapter. So let's just hit the high points real quick, and I want to make sure that you sort of know what's going on here. Okay. China has never been super excited about having any kind of contact with the Europeans. China and Europe don't really sort of see eye to eye when it comes to China. Has a very sort of view of itself that it is the center of the universe, that really there's Chinese society and culture is far more advanced than the rest of the world at this time, they believed. So they don't like having the Europeans show up and ask them to start trading. The Portuguese arrived in 1514. They get expelled because they were barbarians. They were uncultured. Okay, so eventually Christian missionaries are allowed into China. And they, of course, know how to play the game. They will praise Chinese culture, but at the same time try to be missionaries. The Ming Dynasty is in decline. The Ming Dynasty has been in place for quite some time. The English and Dutch are going to, when they arrive, are going to hasten that sort of demise. The Ming are going to fall apart, and they're going to be replaced when the Manchu from Manchuria will invade and take control of Beijing in 1644 and declare a new dynasty. Like I told you, some old texts used to call this the Manchu Dynasty, since these invaders came from Manchuria. And that's true. They are invaders. They come in, and the Chinese are not real fond of these outsiders who are now governing over China. Though the rest of the world now, in this text, we will refer to this as the Qing Dynasty. And I know it has a Q in it, but just trust me when we do this, that Q becomes a CH. So it is the Qing Dynasty. Okay. The early Qing, going to try to make sure that they at least put on the appearance of being Chinese. They will adopt Confucian ideas, adopt Chinese customs. They will expand Chinese territory. Okay? And the early rulers are quite good rulers, and thus, you can probably guess, they will flourish during this time. Later, that will be the case. Okay. Again, they sort of have the same problem we talked about with the Ottomans or with the Mughals, that you're ruling over a group sometimes that is very different from you. And while the Manchu have come in and taken control of China, Chinese people could not move to Manchuria. So there are a lot of differences here. And of course, that's going to breed hostility. And the Chinese do not like outsiders anyway. They will make an agreement with Russia, but they, like I told you, like their predecessors, are very wary of the Europeans. So the British try in the late 1700s to gain access to China, and they fail. The British do not follow the protocols, and they just are going to be offensive to the Chinese and offensive to Qing rulers. And at the same time, China really doesn't want anything that the British have. So the British are going to have to come up with an alternative, and they do. They're going to have to come up with something that they can market in China. And they do. And they get it from their provinces, especially from some of their provinces in northern India and in places today like Afghanistan and Pakistan and those areas that the British are going to end up in control of. What do they get control of when they gain control of those areas? Opium. So what better way to open up an area to trade than to introduce a highly addictive drug to that population, and then you be the only ones that can supply it. So the British are going to eventually sort of find their way into Chinese culture and into China itself by, unfortunately, introducing opium. The population of China is growing at kind of a hint that they were doing okay during the Qing dynasty. Unfortunately, though, as population grows, and if you don't adjust agriculturally, that can later lead to famine. And so that's an important part of this. As Chinese population grows, are they going to be able to feed those? Okay. Now, from there, you end up, like I told you, the chapter is going to skip you over and start to take a look at Tokugawa, Japan. You guys are kind of doing a discussion board about this, so you'll learn about Nobunaga, and then Hideyoshi, and then Tokugawa Ieyasu, who succeeds Hideyoshi, claims the title of shogun. All right, and of course, you guys know there's even a series now that is about this period of time. And there was actually a series and a book written about this time period much earlier in the 70s. And it's kind of been brought back. Tokugawa is, once he kind of becomes shogun, it's going to cut off China really from a lot of interaction with the West, including kind of booting out any kind of Christian missionaries in Japan. The Jesuits who had come to China destroyed a lot of ancient Chinese sites, shrines, temples, and so as a result, Tokugawa was going to boot them all out by 1612. One of the things is that you're basically moving to an emperorship. If you want to think about Tokugawa as sort of becoming a real power, one of the things that, as they become more powerful, one of the things they're taking power away from are the local lords, the daimyo. So you had daimyo, and those are actually the people who hired military guys to protect their lands. And those military guys that they hired were called the samurai. So as you start moving more towards the shogunate, one of the side effects of that, and it happens because of the move towards the shogunate, but it also happens because of technology and other things as well, is you start to see a decrease in the power of the daimyo and then the power of the samurai. There's a lot of, this is a very artistic time in Japan, so you can read through that as well. And then finally, you end up with the chapter moving you through the Choson dynasty in Korea, and then Vietnam as well. So it's really trying to kind of paint you a picture of what's going on in these world, or in this part of the world, just like it did with the Ottoman Empire. So as you read it, make sure you take notes on that you get control of some of this. And I know it throws a lot of very strange words at you. You have to learn Ming and Qing, and then you have to learn Tokugawa Ieyasu and all of that stuff. And I get it, and it's hard, but use the kind of the outline of the PowerPoint here as you move through your reading of the chapter. Kind of jot down some of that stuff, fill in your outline so that you'll have that available to study when it becomes time. All right, until next time.